Welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. I'm Anshu Singh and you're watching a special report. As we commemorate the Anti-tuberculosis Day, we look at the various aspects of tuberculosis that remains to be one of the world's deadliest communicable disease.
Early humans knew it as a dreaded contagion, the scourge of the Neolithic age. Today, the disease afflicts 2 billion people across the globe. It kills 2 million people, one person every second. Down the ages, tuberculosis is the one health threat every generation has struggled to overcome. Mother of 2 young boys, Kiran was diagnosed with MDR tuberculosis in 2013. This severe strain doesn't respond to some of the most powerful anti-TB drugs. Her brother-in-law died from it. Before he did, Kiran contracted the disease.
वो गांव में थे, गांव से मैंने बुलाए थे अपने पास। मुझे पता नहीं था इनको इतने भयंकर बीमारी है, मतलब टीबी का तो पता था, लेकिन ये नहीं था कि मतलब एमडीआर होंगे। तब वहीं से फिर डॉक्टरों ने बोला था कि पूरे परिवार का टेस्ट करवाओ, तो वो टेस्ट करवाए थे, तो उसमें मेरा रिपोर्ट थोड़ा गड़बड़ा गया था।
Private doctors did not take Kiran's condition seriously. Many actually misdiagnosed her condition. It wasn't until some health workers took her to a DOT center that she was diagnosed, and after being treated for 2 years, today she is cured.
कोर्स पूरा करा, 2 साल मैंने दवाई खाई, लेकिन मेरे को अभी भी इतना सा भी विश्वास नहीं है कि मेरे पे ये बीमारी रही होगी।
Tuberculosis is caused by the bacteria Mycobacterium tuberculosis. Usually it attacks the lungs, but the microbe can attack any part of the body.
That it starts from the lung, but if it goes to the other parts of the body, for example the brain, it is quite complicating, because in such patients, patient may have loss of consciousness, patient may have seizures, which is we call epilepsy, patient may have major headaches, even paralysis.
German physician and scientist Robert Koch isolated the tuberculosis bacteria first in 1882. Down the ages, treatments included improved diet, hygiene, isolation, and even bizarre practices like being touched by supposedly healing hands of the royalty. In modern times, the advent of the first TB vaccine BCG and the drug isoniazid promoted a measure of control. But the world over, tuberculosis still remains a huge concern.
1981 to, you can say, 2007 or 6, 25 years, these 25 years, TB was really neglected, because whole emphasis, whole money was going to HIV care.
TB spreads through air. The bacteria are put into air when a person with TB disease of the lungs or throat coughs, sneezes, speaks, or sings. Inhaling just a few germs can infect you. People with active TB can spread the disease to 10 to 15 people in a year. And without proper treatment, up to 2/3 people die. The bigger danger is that TB is evolving into a superbug that's even harder to treat.
MDR is a kind of tuberculosis where there is multiple drug resistance to at least the commonly used anti-tubercular medicines. The medicines which are commonly tolerated well by the patient, they are not working. So we have to shift to a second line treatment, which is mostly not killing the bacteria but holding on. They are static medicines.
Multi-drug resistant tuberculosis or MDR-TB is the big current day challenge. It doesn't respond to the two most powerful anti-TB drugs, isoniazid and rifampicin. India accounts for 99,000 of the global burden of 390,000 multi-drug resistant TB cases annually. Mortality rates for MDR-TB are high, and failure to treat it is the cause of its spread.
A lot of our symptoms are misleading. I'm coughing, everybody coughs. I'm having febrile condition in the night, low fever, low-grade fever, everybody has. So I think we should take good care of those treatments because it is like a long-term, slow disease. And if we miss those symptoms, then we end up having a big one, a proper full-blown TB case.
Concern is that MDR are increasing, multi-drug resistant cases are increasing, and MDR infection goes directly as an MDR. So that is a very critical area which has to be taken into consideration. We are strategizing accordingly. I would appeal to the people that cooperate in this movement. See to it in your family or in your relatives, in your near dear, anybody who is having cough for a long time, get him checked, get him medicated and help us in this program.
In some countries, MDR-TB is difficult to treat since options are limited and expensive. Recommended medicines not easily available and patients experience adverse effects from drugs.
See, resources are definitely less because we have this drug resistant TB is a very expensive affair. Drug resistant TB, what happens, the cost of the drug is around 1 lakh per patient, whereas drug sensitivity is hardly 2,000 rupees. So it becomes so expensive. Similarly is diagnostics for the second line, diagnostic for the drug resistant TB.
These drugs can have, central nervous system side effects. They can have your, gastrointestinal side effects like gastritis, diarrhea, vomiting. In CNS, patient can have dizziness. Patient can sometimes have psychotic symptoms. Then again, other drugs can also have effects on their muscles. They have their effects on their nervous systems.
An even bigger challenge is the extensively drug-resistant TB or XDR-TB. This shows an additional resistance to more anti-TB drugs and responds to even fewer medicines. It's reported in 100 countries worldwide. All TB varieties share similar symptoms: cough with sputum and blood at times, chest pains, weakness, weight loss, fever and night sweats. They can be diagnosed by tests like sputum microscopy, fluorescent microscopy, line probe assay, solid culture, liquid culture and gene expert.
We have a 13,000 designated microscope at every 1 lakh population. But recently, last 1 year, we have introduced the gene experts at the 119 districts and we are introducing another 320 more districts.
TB commonly spreads in crowded public transport, metros, buses, mainly due to poor ventilation. In a globalized world that has a huge population traveling and coming in contact every day, tuberculosis is getting more and more difficult to control.
Time for us to head into a small break. When we return, we look at the growing burden of tuberculosis. Welcome back. In this segment, we will talk about the growing burden of tuberculosis, newer diagnostics, treatments and advancements.
TB isn't just a poor people's disease, it affects the rich too. Men and women, today more women die of TB than in childbirth. Over 95% deaths occur in low and middle income countries and it ranks among the top 5 causes of death for women aged 15 to 44.
If I talk about just government, the public sector, it's kind of foolproof. But if we put everything, like for example, that vis-a-vis the demand, like the kind of patients we have, the kind of number we have, we are not even there. Because not everybody would like to go to government system. Not everybody is aware.
Over 500,000 children aged between 0 and 14 years get TB every year. Many are infected by an adult at home or in school. However, transmission can be stopped through early identification and the right treatment. Elimination of TB in India is not possible unless our children are free from it.
Because we don't have very good tools for diagnosis. And that is the reason that even though we have high number of tuberculosis, but the documentation of pediatric tuberculosis is really a problem. Because we don't get many cases diagnosed, means confirmatory diagnosis. So the treatment is given empirically.
Childhood TB is particularly difficult to diagnose. It affects over 650,000 children every year in 22 countries. India carries the biggest burden, accounting for 27% of these cases.
A lot of tuberculosis in children is unreported, but what we exactly know is that it accounts for something like 6 to 10% of total tuberculosis which happens in India. So it is quite common and we see a lot of patients here. How is it different is that children actually do not bring up phlegm or sputum. So it becomes difficult to diagnose them.
Many high-burden countries ignore childhood infections as a reservoir for future diseases. Quantifying the burden of childhood TB is important to set targets for improvement, monitoring, and to encourage industry to develop appropriate diagnostics.
A lot of children with tuberculosis are misdiagnosed. On the other side, a lot of children who are not having tuberculosis are diagnosed to have tuberculosis and treated for tuberculosis. So both ways are correct because it is difficult. The diagnosis is difficult in children.
We are badly in need of new vaccines. We are badly in need of new diagnostics. We are badly in need of faster treatment regimens, and all that requires research. It all requires massive clinical trials.
Many new diagnostic technologies are under development or available in the market, but there are not enough funds to evaluate if they are accurate. With the focus on just giving away medicines rather than to look for a permanent cure, health activists feel the urgency needed to eradicate tuberculosis is missing.
Time for us to head into another small break. When we return, we will talk about the need of the hour. Welcome back. In this segment, we will talk about TB program and interventions needed at various levels to fight tuberculosis.
India has a massive program to treat regular TB through DOTS. Patients come to a DOTS center several times a week. Treatments last for at least 6 months, and some patients take several pills at a time under supervision to ensure they finish the full course.
This needs a lot of public awareness. First of all, timely detection. Number 2, taking medication till the end so that you are not completely cured. This is a very vulnerable point in the whole strategy of combating tuberculosis. We have started a DOT program also, directly observed treatment, where the patient is asked to come to the medical primary health center or medical institution, and he's given the medicine in front of the health official, so that we monitor and see to it that the patient is taking medicine. So this DOT program is a very important program.
Health workers are on the front line in the fight against tuberculosis. Every day they risk their own health as they educate and help TB patients. What they seek are effective policies at the institutional, local and national levels.
टीबी के प्रोग्राम में पेशेंट काउंसलिंग अच्छी नहीं होती है. आई मीन स्पेसिफिक एक टीम नहीं है जो पेशेंट को काउंसलिंग कर सकें। MDR इंसिडेंस बहुत बढ़ रहे हैं। अगर फर्स्ट लाइन में ही कैटेगरी 1 कैटेगरी 2 में पेशेंट को सही ट्रीटमेंट मिल सके तो MDR इंसिडेंस को रोक सकते हैं। लेकिन इंडिया में अभी जो प्रैक्टिकल एक्सपीरियंसेस हैं, डॉक्टर्स की कमी, पेशेंट्स को कोई भी साइड इफ़ेक्ट हो रहा है नॉर्मल TB रेजिम से, कोई डॉक्टर अटेंड करने के लिए इतनी सफिशिएंट डॉक्टर्स अवेलेबल नहीं है।
जो HIV और एड्स में अंतर क्या है, उसका इलाज क्या है, उसकी रोकथाम क्या है, उसके बारे में बताने के लिए काउंसलर हैं, लेकिन TB काउंसलर नहीं है। और TB का IEC मटेरियल तक इनके पास डेवलप नहीं है कि एक पम्पलेट ब्रोशर किताब कुछ दिया जाए लोगों को हिंदी के माध्यम से, अंग्रेजी भाषा के माध्यम से, मदर लैंग्वेज के माध्यम से, कि लोगों को पता तो लगे ये बीमारी फैलते कैसे है।
Increase the resources from the government side. At the same time, we need to explore resources in the private sector. If somebody in the private sector has a good lab, let's use it. If I set up my own lab, it will cost me 2-3 crores. But if somebody already has the lab in the private sector, let's use this lab for diagnosis and treatment.
India has 4.6 lakh DOT centers with over 5,000 supervisors and more than 13,000 labs. Experts say it's not at all enough to fight a global epidemic like TB.
Facilities for which we need for XDR or TDR or MDR, we are not up there. But if we create a very good MIS, like we inform each other that probably a country like India with so much of population will get, it will be helpful, because then a patient coming to me and a patient coming to you in the evening, I would know that, okay, it's the same patient who's doctor shopping.
We are going to provide a tablet, computer tablet to everyone, in which they will record all the patient name, age, sex, and how much drug they are using, and they will follow completely, and the record will be kept. And now we are also trying to take hold of the private patients who are going to the private doctors to come in our fold.
We are trying to provide drugs to patient being treated in private sector. Till now what happens, the patient comes to a private practitioner and he is purchase the medicine from the chemist shop. So to give the medicine to these private practitioners, we have piloted 2 studies wherein we have a call center. Private doctor, my neighborhood doctor diagnosed me as TB and he informs the call center. Call center gives a unique ID and a voucher, gives the voucher to the patient. Patient goes to the chemist shop, he gets the medicine free of cost, and finally we reimburse that cost. So we are piloting this type of technology also.
Last May at the World Health Assembly, governments agreed on an ambitious 20-year strategy from 2016. The End TB strategy envisions a world free of TB with zero deaths, disease and suffering. It sets targets and outlines actions for governments to eliminate TB.
Unless political prioritization is given to this epidemic in India, I would say it is sufficiently big to call it as a national health emergency for the coming years and to pool resources to tackle it. Big issue is, of course, also engagement of private sector. Private sector service provision is not of desired quality standard. Public program is much more standardized.
We have a RNTCP revised National Tuberculosis Control Program, and we have got DOT program also. They have been pretty successful. But at the same time, on World Tuberculosis Day, I would request through you to the people of India, the NGOs, the voluntary organizations, the development partners, to come forward and see to it that we make this world combating tuberculosis a reality.
Experts say the situation can improve through more awareness and greater focus on the need for a vaccine.
2 हफ्ते से ज्यादा अगर आपको खांसी होगा तो टीबी हो सकता है। टीबी? हाँ, तुरंत डॉक्टर से मिलिए और बलगम की जांच कराइए, क्योंकि टीबी जो है
वो किसी को भी हो सकता है।
कुछ जो केसेस मिसिंग हो रहे हैं, इन्हें आइडेंटिफाई करने के लिए प्राइवेट जो डॉक्टर्स हैं, प्राइवेट क्वालिफाइड, अनक्वालिफाइड डॉक्टर्स और केमिस्ट, फार्मासिस्ट, इन सबको प्रोग्राम में इन्वॉल्व करना बहुत ज़रूरी है, क्योंकि जो केमिस्ट हैं ये फर्स्ट स्टेप होता है किसी भी इंसान के लिए.
So if we can think of a health system, a integrated health system from a service provision point of view, and as well as if we create enough awareness that nobody misses those symptoms, because it's a communicable disease. Any symptoms missed or not taken care of is multiplying many more patients.
Elimination of TB may only become possible with a range of interventions at the global level. But for a country like India that already has the largest number of patients, experts feel the existing resources are not enough. It's a war that needs to be won. Better implementation, infection control, and early diagnosis can certainly help. But in the end, an effective TB vaccine is still our last hope.
Between 1990 and 2013, the tuberculosis death rate dropped 45%. Tuberculosis is slowly declining each year. It is estimated that 37 million lives were saved between 2000 and 2013 through effective diagnosis and treatment. Given that all these deaths are preventable, the death toll is unacceptably high. Efforts to combat tuberculosis needs to be accelerated. That's all in this special report. We will be back with a new report. Keep watching Rajya Sabha Television.